Hello, esteemed colleagues. I just want to add to our discussion as we're scrambling to move to an online delivery for our instruction. I thought I would make this video, take it, leave it. I know there's a lot being thrown at you right now, but I want to just kind of hopefully just show you some of the things that, in at least a short form, some of the lessons I've learned by doing things wrong. Again, take it or leave it. I'm in no way an expert, but just through my own experimentation over the last 5 years or so, teaching online, these are my findings. So the first thing you'll notice is I'm sitting in this beautiful cafe. I'm actually, you can choose virtual backgrounds. I'm actually sitting in my office. But if I put this background up, it sure feels like I'm in a cafe, and I like that more. I want to share my screen now and talk a little bit about just what it would look like to take your instruction online. I like using Zoom to record my lectures. I've typically found that they fit into Canvas, but I'm hearing people tell me that there's some memory issues, which for some reason I haven't experienced. Regardless, I'm going to set up a YouTube channel, which I know a lot of people are doing. That way it's also independent of the learning platform. Students always have access to YouTube. So I'll talk about recording my Zoom lectures and then talk about using Proctorial. That has been a lifesaver for exam proctoring. So a little history. When I first started this journey 5 years ago, I found this feature on PowerPoint where you could narrate over the top of them. And so I did that. To be honest, it was pretty restrictive. I mean, you're kind of stuck with just PowerPoint. And without a writing implement or something, it was very kludgy trying to make my instruction seem kind of lively and at least have some element of spontaneity. It was a lot of work, and it wasn't the most effective. Zoom recording. So then I discovered I could record my lectures using Zoom. So with a simple webcam and microphone, I would go on and I would share my PowerPoint slides, and then I would have a separate camera where I had it positioned over a clipboard with paper, either plain white paper, or I would take maybe an example that was on the PowerPoint slide and have hard copies, and those examples would be printed on the top, and then I could just work out whatever problem I was demonstrating below. Up until this semester, actually, that's what I've been using, and it has gone very well. I've had positive student feedback from it. Then this semester, as luck would have it, I decided to go ahead and integrate the two and do everything, redo all of my lecture videos, but do them all in this virtual format where I'm not doing anything with pen and paper, but instead I'm using the writing tablet and writing over my PowerPoint slides. So I want to give you an example of what that might look like. This is just a brief lecture kind of modeling what my students might see. So hope you enjoy it. We'll take a look and then talk a little bit when it's done. Hello, everybody. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to give you a demonstration of how you might take your lectures, your direct instruction in online format. This is by no means the only way to do it. This is just how I've decided on doing it from, frankly, a lot of times doing it wrong. So I'm going to kind of narrate you through this process and show you how this works. So I will typically start off with just me talking. I like to tell the students, what they're about to see. I like to tell them where the upcoming content fits in the scope of the course, review what they've done before, and kind of motivate why it's natural that whatever we're doing comes next. At that point, I will then share the screen and go over to my actual PowerPoint slides. So that's what I'm going to do now.
So now, once we're in our PowerPoint slides, or you could use Google Sheets, you could use, honestly, you use your PDFs right over the top. A smart notebook is an option. I prefer PowerPoint just because that's what I'm most familiar with, and frankly, that's what my stylus hardware seems to interface best with. So just as an example, I'm not going to go into depth about logistic growth, but yeah, it seems appropriate. So let's say, I don't know, there's a virus spreading, and we wanted to look at it from a mathematical perspective. You know, I might show this slide, and then I like to pose questions to my students. I might ask them, you know, even though they're not directly in front of me, I might ask them things like, you know, well, what shape is this graph? What behavior does it exhibit? And then perhaps something like, you know, is it reasonable to expect this behavior to continue? I'll even have them pause the video and come back to it later, or, you know, pause it for a few moments or whatever have you, and have them actually think about the question that I've posed. Honestly, to the point that I might even follow up my question with just silence, staring at the camera, making sure they do it. So, you know, a question, some, you know, about this, and then getting them ready for what I'm going to say next. And so then in my next slide, I look at the logistic model, and I might point out things, and this is where we can write on top, point out things that if you look at this model, it seems to exhibit exponential growth down here, which seems like that's the part of the graph we're in. You know, the big question is, what's this number up here, right? I might point out this and say, you know, it seems that at least eventually this function seems to approach this upper bound. What does that mean? Within the context of a virus spreading, what does that mean? And then, you know, if I have a question that I might want to pose, I can write it on the slide as well. Like I might say, you know, what percent of the US population is in, and discuss why that's relevant, and then of course maybe point out the inflection points depending on the level of the course, talk about what an inflection point is, you know, what's going on with the tangent lines. All these things you can annotate as you move through your slides, and I will do that. When I'm done with the presentation of the material, then I will go back to the other screen, the whole screen, away from my content, where it's just me and the students. And then once I'm back at this other screen, I will then recap with my students what it is we've covered, and I will kind of, if it's appropriate, motivate what's coming next. And again, give them the why, and maybe even pose a question for next time, and then give them a word of encouragement and send them on their way with a happy studies, or in this case, maybe touchy curves. Good.
Okay, so that was my rather irreverent attempt at showing you what could be done. Again, those are all very simple technologies. What I used for those were the following. These three items, microphone, webcam, and writing tablet. I know a lot of you have these already, but these I found really help the most with creating that content over the top of my slides. And so that's what I have used: webcam, microphone, writing tablet. Here are some considerations I've learned just from some of the literature. First, present material in small chunks. We might give a lecture in person that lasts, you know, an entire class session or a large chunk of it. But some of the research has found that our videos should be shorter. And so I might break a concept down into chunks, whereas, you know, if you're creating a lecture that has this flow, I might, when I get to one kind of main point, end my video and then start my next one with, you know, where I left off, give a recap, and then move on. Also, I like to encourage some type of reflection. For what it's worth, you know, our students, and this is my personal thing, but I believe that neuroscientists are making this less and less my opinion and more factual. You know, technology in terms of screens are really a huge threat to their success. And so in an online environment, there's some necessary screen time, but I want to move them away from that. And so I will often ask them for some type of reflection to be done throughout the week. And then they'll respond to me, yes, online, but they will respond. And then I respond to those one-on-one. It allows a more relational approach to the class that's obviously missing when you don't have that face-to-face interaction. It is a lot of work, to be honest with you. My responses are directly proportional to their submissions. So if a student answers my open-ended questions with one-word answers, I have a couple sentences that are on copy and paste that I can just paste in there and go on my merry way. But for students to take advantage of this, it's a wonderful way to create some reflection on their part so that they're thinking about what they're doing and how they're learning as they move through the course. And for that matter, you know, how can we be personal? Because that connection, which I thrive on when I'm in a classroom, is really hard to capture. I'm not even sure you should try to capture it. I don't think that, you know, might not even be the right goal, but when there are chances to be personal, I really jump on them. It can be something as simple as a student in their reflection telling me that they were working on their homework quiz late because they had been at a basketball tournament for campus. And then that, you know, hey, I love basketball, and you know, just whatever I can do to relate to them in a personal way. I'm not talking about sharing inappropriate information, but just being mindful that if I can build a relationship with them somehow through this format, then I get better results. So let's talk about Proctorial a little bit. This is a wonderful tool for proctoring exams. So let me show you how I've used it and maybe demonstrate with an example. Okay, so I've accessed my online class for this semester. I do it bi-weekly. I do it by 3 broad categories. It's a statistics course. And then within each part, I have these text headers, which are by week. So where would I use Proctorial? Well, I would use it down here for a midterm. So just as an example, I'll show you this. I have this midterm that I proctored remotely. And before I'll do this first here. Let's see. Let me show you the questions. So when you go to set this up, you know, here's where in Canvas you can give your instructions. If there's a file you want them to download, like maybe you have charts that you want them to use, or sets of formulas or whatever, you can put a file here for them to download and have access to. And you know, how much time do you want? This is midterm 1, so on. You don't need to worry about the access code that will be generated when you do your Proctorial settings. And you can also, let's see here, where is it? Well, I'll show you that in a moment. But if you, well, I'll say it now. So you have this option where it says moderate this quiz. If you have students in DSPS that have extra time allotment, then you can, I'm not going to click on this because for privacy issues, but you'll see your class list, and then you can on an individual basis assign more time to each student. And so this is where I'll go to give that extra time that those students are allowed. So let me go back to edit just to show you the questions now. I like to show question details so I can see what I've done, but so I'll hit edit. So here I've selected multiple drop downs as this question type. Very convenient in that it will tell you the syntax here. So if you just follow that syntax, it's great. You should also know that it accepts LaTeX. So if you are fluent in using LaTeX or LaTeX, then you can actually type in directly to this box and it will recognize that. Other question types and some problems that I've found. Let's see. So here's one. So this is a good example. Here, I can just assign an essay question. So I've given this poll that was conducted by MSNBC, and I want to ask a few questions about it. I would go in and grade this myself. It's not going to grade automatically, but they have a text response. They can type in and give the response. Let's see about some numerical. Okay, so these were I had some text responses here. So here students had to write out their answers using the editor within the program. But that's not always the case. Sometimes, let me go to a different one. Actually, you know what? Let me just add a question here. So if I want a new question and I want, say, a numerical answer, then what can happen is you can tell them exact answer and then specify what margin of error you would like. And that's convenient too, because if you're allowing for some type of rounding error, that's where you could control for that. One of the limitations, and if someone knows better, I would love to hear this, is that I might want several different answer types within one question, and it doesn't let me do that. Like, let's say I want a student to justify what distribution is at play. Well, that's not a numerical answer. That might be multiple drop downs or something of that nature. But then I want a numerical answer. I can't combine those different question types, or at least I don't know how yet. And so in that case, I would just do fill in multiple blanks. But when there's a numeric answer, like let's say the numeric answer is 0.423. If a student types in 0.423, they will not get credit. And that's an annoyance. It's a frustration for a lot of students. So you, in one sense, if you're going to do that, you might also include as a possible answer, in addition, 0.423. And that will help alleviate that. Honestly, guys, I always tell them that whatever they do for their online quizzes or exams, I always go put my own eyes on them. The computer doesn't have the final say on what the right answers are. And so I will put my own eyes on all of their answers and give them points where it's deserved. So that's how I use the assessment program, the quiz program, but then Proctorial. So there are some settings we can use. There's behavior settings. It can be lenient, it can be moderate. There's an open note, custom. This isn't going to let me change these, I think, because I've already, well, I guess it will, already had this exam given. But you can choose your metrics. And the Proctorial will tell you things like, how was their eye movement? Did they look away from the screen quite a bit? What websites did they navigate to? You can also lock that down. You can clear their cache, things like that. So let me go to maybe a quiz that I haven't set up Proctorial with, a homework quiz or something, and show you what we can do with that. So I don't know. How about 4B homework quiz? And I am going to oh, I forgot. I can't all right. Sorry, since this is already published, I can't change the Proctorial settings. I'm gonna put this on pause real quick and then change those or come back. Okay, so I have selected my second midterm for my stats class. I'll show you how it works here. So I'm gonna edit. And then I've got my Proctorial settings. So under these settings, I have some options. So recording options, record video, record audio. Do I want to see what's going on in the room? And do I want to hear? Also, record screen. I recommend doing this because you can see them taking their test. You can see whatever else they're looking at. The intelligence scan, I really recommend this because it requires a student to take their camera, or if they're using a laptop, whatever, and show their testing environment. So they're going to show their 360 degrees, and you can have them show their work surface, wherever it is they're testing. And so you know what's there is there, and you can look for things that should or should not be there. The lockdown option. So, and again, this just walks you through these as you go through. So, moderate, I'll tell you what that is, right? They will not be able to leave the quiz page, but moderate tolerance is allowed. Lenient, they can leave the quiz page, but a higher tolerance is allowed. At full screen off, they can use other materials on the computer. Severe, test takers will not be able to leave the quiz page, and any action outside of the quiz page will end the attempt. And this is no joke. I mean, I've usually keep mine on moderate, and then some other things. No new tabs. You want to be careful with no new tabs because, like my online class uses Microsoft Excel. I want that to be available to them. So you just have to be careful. Tabs allowed, in quiz links only. So maybe you want them to use an online program, maybe Desmos, maybe Google Sheets or something like that for their spreadsheet. You would be authorizing those, and those they'd be allowed to do. Only one screen. Closing open tabs, right? If there's anything open on their computer, it's going to close it. Disabling printing. Disabling their clipboard, clearing their cache, and then disabling right click. These are all things you can do to create as good a lockdown situation as you can. Preventing re-entry. This is where you need to let them take the exam in one sitting. So if they get up and walk away, done. They need to sit and do it all in one sitting. There are also some verification options. Verifying their video and audio, auto ID. So this is they have to show their ID to the screen. Probably not going to do this with classes that have started in person, since I already know everybody. But you figure with your online students, you might not see faces. So I like to verify that the person in the ID is actually the person I see taking the test. Verify signature. I like this because it's a statement of integrity and they have to sign it. Nudging their conscience a little bit and making them acknowledge it has been shown to decrease the chances of cheating. So I usually select that as well. You have some in-quiz tools. You want them to let them use a calculator within the quiz or a whiteboard to scratch stuff out. They're able to do that. The behavior settings, these are, broader. So like, let's say, my recommended, and these are kind of defaulted by Proctorial. You can see what those are. Open Note allows other applications and looking off screen. So if I want my students to be able to use Excel and not get flagged, then they're able to do that. The metrics, so navigating away, you can adjust where you want this, okay? So navigating away, is that no big deal? Or if I slide this over, is it a big deal? And you'll get a report of where they've navigated, so that's good as well. So I might put this on orange just to know, just so I can see that what they were doing and know where that happened in the recording. Keystrokes, you can have those if there's random keystrokes or something like that. You can alert that. Copying and pasting, is that allowed? Is it not allowed? If they do it, is that a problem? Browser resizing, you can have that be an issue if you want. Audio levels, head and eye movement. So just to let you know, when I first used Proctorial, this was up here somewhere, and every one of my students got flagged. And I'm sitting there watching the recordings going, well, what were they doing? There's no evidence. And so I've moved this down here. Multi-face, this is probably one you want in the red because, at least for my exams, they should be taking them alone. If I see somebody else, that's a problem. Leaving the room. You know, a lot of us don't allow students to leave during an exam. Do the same thing here. You know, move that all the way up. I don't know why it's not letting me do that right now, but, oh, locked by admin. Okay, so not sure what that's about. That would be above any of our pay grade, but apparently that's locked. So abnormalities, again, we've got these. Abnormal scrolling. Technical abnormalities, you know, did this person finish quickly, significantly quicker compared to everyone else taking the test? Is there an example of collusion? So are students taking it on the same network at the same time, right? They might be in 2 different rooms of the house taking the same exam. And if their audio levels are off, they could be talking to each other. So something to think about. And so then you would just save and publish that. I want to show you what the report looks like from a student who I have permission to actually show you that from. So let me come over here to my, let's see, fall 2019. So this is a student that I asked if I could show his proctored results, and so the answer was yes. So let me come over here and, I don't know, what should we see? Let's see his final. So when you're done with your exam, you'll get this tab over here that says View Proctorial Gradebook. When you click on that, you'll get, eventually, this big report of all your students. When things are flagged, there'll be a, you know, what's known as any type level of suspicion, and you can go in the timeline as the video plays. It will also be color coded. So I'm just going to go look for that red, and at that timestamp, see what was going on. If there is an issue with ID, take a look. I don't know if any of these students are trying to be 21 when they're not, but maybe it finds that out as well. Okay, so this guy, Andrea. Unfortunately, he is Mr. Integrity, so there's really nothing to report here. This is why I had a clean conscience, but this is what you'll see. So I have video of him here, and I have the screen, his screen over here. And so I can hit play and watch him get some water, and obviously it's very fast. And then I'm seeing what he's doing. And, you know, again, if there were a portion of the exam where there was an issue, I could find it down here and go to that spot and then slow it down and see what was going on. So if you just hit, you know, can slow it down a bit, and then I could notice what was going on. Tell me all sorts of information. If I want to see his, let's see, his room scan, I can just view the room scan. If I want to see his ID or the recording, I can do that. And then there's a report, right? Like if there was an issue, there's a PDF report, and you could export that, and there you'd have some documentation along with the video. Okay. So what have I found about Proctorial? Well, I always give my students the option of coming on campus. I think it's an accessibility issue, a legal issue ultimately. So I tell them, you know, this is a horrible invasion of your privacy. No one is actually watching you while you're taking your exam. I am simply getting a report that would allow me, if I choose, to go back and watch you. But it's not like someone's on the other end watching you while you're taking your exam. I mean, I guess effectively that's what's happening, because I could sit and watch all of my students through the recordings, but most of them have found it to be kind of a necessary evil. I've found that the more I prep them for it, the less reticent they are, the more accepting of it. However, I do let some students come, if they prefer, take it in person. Honestly, I've only had a couple people do that over the last, gosh, I guess I've done this for about a year now. So most of them just kind of accept it and go with it. Some other ways you could use it, you know, you might allow them, like talking about us going online now with our students that are used to being in person. I'm looking into having them allowing print capabilities. So when they open up the exam, that first instruction page, they can print off a hard copy and then and show their testing environment, so I can see that there aren't cell phones and things like that around. And then when they're done with the exam, allow them to scan it and send it to me through the Canvas quiz, or if the timestamp's appropriate, through email. I know this isn't an easy fix, and I know that there are still unresolved issues. What do you do with a student who doesn't have video webcam, can't access it, or doesn't really want to go through the process of being recorded, which I completely respect. If I were in their position, I can't say I wouldn't be any different. I don't have answers to those yet. We don't have answers to those yet. That's something to ask people above us. We're kind of figuring it out as we go, but this is at least where I've landed. So hopefully this helps a little bit. If not, I apologize for wasting your time, but I've found Proctorial to be pretty useful. And so just to end, you know, I had this thought as I was facing the reality, and it's that if people can meet online and get married, then surely we can build relationships of learning. I want to let you all know I am thrilled to be part of this department, and just so encouraged that we are able to come together as we do. It's truly wonderful. So I'm available if anyone needs, you know, email's the best way to get a hold of me. I will also send my cell phone out through email to everybody. Again, don't have all the answers. This might be a little late, but I know some people wanted to see it. So here it is. And this is the part of the recording where I just keep rambling. So I'm going to stop. Best of luck, everyone. Here we go.